Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the San Martin SN006-G2. This watch is available from watchdives.com for $349. You can use the discount code WR4K to get $10 discount off any watch over $150 on watchdives.com. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the watch comes in this new style of San Martin watch box. Lau Jiaming, the owner of San Martin, personally designed and developed the packaging to this watch box, and he deserves full credit because this is a very well executed watch box, and it makes a refreshing change from the default option of using a cardboard watch box. I like the way they've incorporated the San Martin Hex brand logo and also the bezel of a watch into the screw down lid, and also the base also has the screw down case back, which is used on San Martin watches, so very nice attention to detail. So one unscrews the lid, and in the base there's a foam cutout panel which houses the accessories, which I'll show you. And this sleeve fits inside the watch box. As you can see, the watch sits on a piece of foam inside this foam cutout panel, and the foam sleeve is a very snug fit inside, as you can see. So it does a very good job of protecting the watch in shipping, and it's very aesthetically pleasing. With regards to the other items, this is the San Martin Owner's Instruction Manual. Clear, concise diagrams, clear, concise pictures. It details the operation of the movement used. Now, this SN006-G2 is available with two movement options, the PT5000 or alternatively the Sellita SW200-1 respectively. I'm reviewing the PT5000 version, but this Owner's Instruction Manual covers both. This is the plastic guarantee card, and unusually it's a circle rather than being a rectangle. And as you can see, it's stamped on the reverse with San Martin watches and filled in with the date of purchase. Usually San Martin watches are covered by a 2-year international warranty. However, if you purchase this watch from watchdives.com, it is covered by a 3-year international warranty, so you're getting an extra 12 months international guarantee. So that is a good reason to purchase it from watchdives.com. With regards to other items, one also gets this San Martin stainless steel keyring, as you can see, which is very nice. And one also gets two tools. This is a stainless steel spring bar tool, as you can see, 2-prong fork at one end, and on the other end we have a push pin. No old shank to it, and it's made from solid stainless steel. And lastly, one also gets this stainless steel 1.6mm flathead screwdriver for resizing the screw pins in the bracelet, again made from solid stainless steel and no old shank. So very good quality, nice to get those accessories included. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the San Martin SN006-G2. The watch is clearly an homage to the Tudor Snowflake Submariner from the 1970s, so very similar proportions to that piece. We have a 39mm head of the piece. Now I want to clarify something. This is a 39mm head of the piece, but it does wear like a 40 because the bezel is actually 40mm, so there is a 0.5mm overhang on the left and right hand flanks of the case. And the 40mm bezel does mean that it looks visually like one is wearing a 40mm head of the piece, but the actual dimensions are 39mm to the case, the bezel is 40. The lug-to-lug measurement is 48.7mm, and we have a thickness of 13.5mm. The lug width to the oyster-style bracelet is 20mm, and it tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the 2-button push clasp. The 2-button push clasp is signed to a high standard with an embossed San Martin Hex logo, which is mirror polished to a high standard, as you can see. This is one of the best quality clasps I have seen on a watch, and it's one of the things I really like about this SN006-G2. I'm often critical, as you'll know from my previous reviews, of clasps only having 3 micro adjustment holes. San Martin have made the correct decision, and they deserve full credit for having 4 micro adjustment holes, because this means one can fine tune the length of the bracelet with the 4 micro adjustment holes to get the perfect comfortable fit. The 2-button push triggers have a nice firm resistance to the spring-loaded action. The interior is solid 316L grade stainless steel, milled clasp, brush satin finish to the top side, underside and flanks. The hinge pins are a good tight fit to the body of the interior, and it snaps shut with a nice loud audible click. Nice positive clicking action. I like the large mirror polished bevel, which is machined on the edge to mark the transition between the exterior and the flanks. Brushed satin finish to the flanks and brushed satin finish to the exterior. Beautiful luster to the 316L grade stainless steel. It's absolutely finished to perfection. It's gorgeous. Also like the large bevel machined to the edge, as you can see. And they deserve full credit because there's no sharp edges, no burrs. And the mirror polishing is just incredible. This is just a very well executed 2-button push clasp, nice heavy gauge of metal to the 316L grade stainless steel. With regards to the rest of the specification, we have a boxed top hat crystal which is double domed and it has clear AR coating on the underside. The clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the mirror polished silver snowflake hands, which are very well proportioned, and they complement the applied silver stainless steel San Martin Hex brand emblem at 12. Just the right amount of information on the dial, perfect symmetry because it lacks a date complication, and this is a very good homage to the Tudor Snowflake Submariner from the 1970s because we have the same printed indices rather than applied indices. The proportions of the snowflake indices are very good and the proportions of the hands are very good. If you look closely at the minute hand, the tip of the minute hand extends fully to the 60-minute ticks of the chapter ring, as does the sweeping snowflake second hand. The tip of the second hand also extends to the chapter ring. It's often something that's what Chinese watch brands get incorrect, especially within the low tier and the mid tier. They underproportion the hands, they're too short. The minute hand often doesn't reach the chapter ring, nor does the second hand, but San Martin get the proportions correct. These snowflake hands are the correct size and they perfectly balance the size of the printed snowflake indices. The dial isn't overbranded with unnecessary text and specification. We simply have the San Martin Hex brand emblem applied at 12 and automatic with 200 meters equals 660 feet at 6 o'clock. So just the right amount of information. I love the symmetry of the dial, and the matte black dial complements the printed indices, which are white, and the tone of the white printed indices perfectly matches the white hands. So it's BGW9 Super Lume Nova throughout, and I think they deserve credit for getting the match of the colour tone correct. This is something that other Chinese brands get wrong, such as Pagani Design, for example. Often there's a mismatch between the colour of the white lume used on the dial, on the indices, and the colour of the white lume used on the hands, but this perfectly matches the colour tone in daylight conditions is exactly the same, so the same grade of BGW9 used throughout. With regards to the bezel, it's very well executed. Ceramic bezel insert which is sloped, infilled with white paint which has a nice matte finish to it. It looks very similar to the platinum used on the Rolex Submariner, and I like the minute ticks and the quality of the engraved Arabic numerals. Lume pip and triangle also very well executed. Nice glossy finish to the black ceramic bezel insert, and it's a very flush fit to the stainless steel bezel, as you can see. Nice scalloped teeth to the low profile stainless steel bezel, brushed satin finish throughout. Now the scalloping is done very well. It's not as deep as on a Steinhardt Ocean 139 or a Rolex Submariner. The depth of the scallops are very light and it makes it very low profile and aesthetically pleasing, but it is still very grippy without having sharp edges. The scallops to the teeth don't have sharp points which dig into the index finger and thumb. This is something I disliked about my Rolex Submariner, the fact that the points to the scallops on the teeth were very sharp and they used to dig into the index finger and thumb. This feels very smooth and comfortable, but it's still very grippy. With regards to the finishing to the head of the piece, it's one of my favourite aspects. Flawless mirror polishing to the flanks. This really is Rolex or Tudor level finishing to the case. The mirror polishing is some of the best I've seen. I really like the large bevel which is machined on the edge of the flanks of the case. It marks the transition between the tops of the lugs and the flanks. Reminds me of a Tudor Black Bay 58 or a Black Bay Heritage because we've got that large chamfer, or alternatively a Rolex classic Submariner such as the 16610, which also had a very similar large chamfer. It's just absolutely gorgeous the way the chamfer is mirror polished. The brushed satin finish has a nice grained finish to it, as per the 16610 Submariner, or of course the vintage Tudor Snowflake Submariner, which this is an homage to, on the tops of the lugs. Another detail I really like is the use of female pivoted end links. Now, I've previously reviewed the WR4K Ironwatch RX8004, which uses the same case as this watch, the San Martin SN006. The difference is the 006 has holes drilled in the lugs, which give it a more vintage aesthetic, but it's also more practical because In the absence of quick release spring bars, it means one can easily remove the bracelet, one can remove the end links from the head of the piece by using a spring bar tool externally, pushing it through the holes in the lugs rather than using the conventional method, the two-prong fork, inside the slots in the end links. So they're aesthetically pleasing. They give the watch the look of a 1970s piece with holes in the flanks to the case, but they're also very practical. Now, the other thing I really like is the use of female pivoted end links. On the RX8004, they use male end links, and that extends the effective lug-to-lug measurement of the watch. So if you're a collector with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, you therefore find the lug-to-lug measurement to be too long. With the female pivoted end links, it effectively shortens the lug-to-lug measurement because, as you can see, the end link in the oyster-style bracelet can articulate, it can actually move snug to the wrist, it can pull underneath the head of the piece. Very good articulation. This feels very similar to a Tudor Black Bay 58 or a Tudor Black Bay Heritage in terms of the articulation of the end link, and they've done a very good job. The finishing is good, the fit to the head of the piece is good, and the profile is very good. It looks very similar to a Rolex 16610 or a Tudor Snowflake Submariner. That is the profile. There was a slight undercut in the end link to the head of the piece. So they've got that vintage aesthetic done to perfection. No play in it. Good tight fit to the case. Now, with regards to the luster, the finishing to the brush satin finishing, this is some of the best brush satin finishing I have ever seen on a watch bracelet. This is Rolex level quality. There is no discernible difference between the brush satin finishing on this SN006-G2 to my Rolex Submariner that I previously owned, or alternatively a Tudor Black Bay Heritage, which I've also previously owned. Just look at the luster of that 316L grade stainless steel, absolutely sublime. Brush satin finish to the top side, underside, which contrasts with the mirror polished flanks, and we have screw pins, so no cost cutting measures whatsoever. Bracelet is outstanding on this piece. It is really very close to Tudor quality or Rolex quality. So I'll show you the case back. Solid 316L grade stainless steel, screw down case back. The screw down case back provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters. Low profile, and it's just finished to perfection. No sharp edges to it. One can see the concentric CNC lathe tool cut finishing to it. It's just beautiful the way the light is refracted. Coin edge finish to it. It looks very similar to a Rolex or a Tudor case back. The quality and the finishing is outstanding. The female pivoted end links are a good tight fit to the case. No sharp edges, no burrs, and I really like it. I think the underside to the finishing of the case is very good. No sharp edges to the underside to the flanks. The finishing of this piece throughout is 10 out of 10. Right, so let's test the bezel action and then we'll test the crown execution. 120 click unidirectional bezel, as one would expect. Nice, loud, audible clicks. In terms of resistance, it feels lighter than a Seiko Turtle or SKX007 bezel action. It's definitely lighter than a Steinhardt Ocean 139, which you may be familiar with. Nice heavy indexing. I like the ratcheting mechanism. It feels solid, feels tight, but the resistance is lighter, so they've got the balance just right because it's lighter than a Steinhardt Ocean 139, which many collectors think is too tight. No lateral side-side play whatsoever. No back play whatsoever. This is a very tight bezel, but light resistance, so they've got the balance just done right. Let's check the alignment. Perfect. The Lume pip and triangle perfectly aligned with the 12 o'clock index on the dial, so perfect alignment. No lateral side-side play, no back play. This is 10 out of 10 bezel execution. I actually prefer this bezel action to the bezel action on my Rolex Submariner. I dislike Submariner bezel actions because I think it's too light. And I think that the Steinhardt Ocean 139 bezel execution is too tight, so this is a good compromise between those two. Just the right balance between resistance without any play. So very well finished. The scalloping to the teeth isn't sharp, no sharp points to it as per the Submariner, which I dislike. And I like the way the scallops aren't too deep as per the Steinhardt Ocean 139. So it's good looking and it works very well. With regards to the crown, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, coin edge finished, mirror polished domed cap, embossed San Martin S brand logo. Now, this is the one thing I would change about the watch. I'm not going to say it's a negative, although it is subjective. Some collectors dislike this. I personally dislike it. I think the San Martin hex embossed crown would look better rather than this S, which looks like a US dollar symbol. But however, it is finished to a good standard. The mirror polishing is very good, no sharp edges, no burrs. So let's test the screw down crown execution. Absolutely silky smooth. This is 10 out of 10. Very good interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. There are two rubber O-rings, one inside the crown, one inside the crown tube, and they provide an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters water resistance, which is perfectly acceptable. So unscrewing the crown in the first position is the manual wind position, and one can manually wind the PT5000 automatic to top it up to its maximum 40-hour power reserve. Absolute pleasure. Feels firm, nice firm resistance to the gearing, but it doesn't feel gritty or sandy. Now I want to clarify something. Often collectors report defects or QC issues with manually winding a PT5000. I'm pleased to report that San Martin are using the original maker of the PT5000, HK Precision Technology in China. The problem is that subsequently the PT5000 has now been cloned. It's been copied by several other inferior factories. They're copying the original HK Precision Technology version. And the main defect they have in terms of quality control is they're not lubricated properly, specifically the winding gear in the PT5000. So that's why some collectors, for example, if you purchase a Kronos and it has a gritty or sandy feeling to the winding gear, it's because it hasn't been lubricated correctly. The movements used by Kronos aren't the original HK Precision Technology, they're clones of it. With this, it uses the original PT5000 from HK Precision Technology, and they do lubricate the movements correctly, so therefore it feels silky smooth. Now, San Martin regulate the PT5000s themselves, and they also check the movements are correctly lubricated. So, as it's a PT5000, with a date complication, the first click position is a phantom date setting position, and the date wheel is present underneath the dial. One can't see it because of the absence of a date window, but it is still there. One can feel the date clicking over with a quick set complication. Putting it out to the second click position hacks the movement. If you look closely at the Snowflake second hand, I've now hacked the movement. It is possible to set the time precisely to the second. So we're now in the second click position, the time setting position. Light resistance to the PT5000, it feels very similar to an SW200-1, alternatively an ETA 2824-2, which it is a clone of. I like the light resistance to it, no backplay whatsoever, absolute pleasure to set the time. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that will restart the movement. As you can see, the Snowflake hand begins to sweep around the dial once again. So let's test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup. This is outstanding screw down crown execution. Something that San Martin do very well. I really like the screw down crown. It feels very smooth, and one can feel the friction of the rubber O-rings. The rubber O-ring inside the crown and the second rubber O-ring inside the crown tube, providing that hermetic seal of 200 meters. 10 out of 10 screw down execution. Right, so let's do a Lume test, and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. This is 10 out of 10 top grade BGW9 Super Lume Nova. There is no discernible difference between the quality of the BGW9 that San Martin are using and the quality of Rolex Chromalight used on the Submariner, or alternatively the quality of the Super Lume Nova used on the Tudor Black Bay Heritage. This is the same grade of BGW9 Super Lume Nova. The blue tone on the printed indices and also the Snowflake hands is a perfect colour match, exactly the same coloured blue. There isn't a mismatch in the tone. Same colour blue tone to the Lume pip on this ceramic bezel insert, as you can see. I like the Snowflake hands. They are superior in terms of performance to Mercedes hands. And also, they made the correct decision by using printed indices rather than applied indices. Usually it's the case that applied indices are deeper, and therefore they allow for 5 to 6 layers of BGW9 to be applied. So one expects better Lume performance on a dial with applied indices rather than printed. But due to the large plots, the large area of the Snowflake indices, we can still have 5 to 6 layers of BGW9. So this is actually better than a Rolex Maxi dial. The indices are larger on the Snowflake dial, and also the hands are larger in proportion on the Snowflake hands than the Mercedes hands used on a Rolex Submariner, for example, or a Steinhardt Ocean 139. The Snowflake second hand is very aesthetically pleasing. You can see the large Lume pip, the square shape to the Snowflake sweeping around on the second hand, so the legibility is outstanding. It's glowing incredibly brightly. In terms of brightness, I would say it's very similar to Seiko Luma Bright, which is top grade. Alternatively, Rolex Chromalight, which again is top grade, so it will continue to glow for a good length of time. No cost-cutting measures whatsoever. This is some of the best BGW9 Super Nova I have seen on my channel. It really is outstanding. Right, so let's discuss the movement used, because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So, you will all be familiar with the PT5000. It is a clone of the ETA 2824-2. The only difference is the ETA 2824-2 is made in Switzerland and the PT5000 is made in China respectively, but the architecture of the two movements is identical. Many of the parts are interchangeable. So it has 25 joules, it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. Now, I really like 4 Hz movements. If you look closely at the Snowflake secondhand, it's got a nice smooth sweep. That's a characteristic of movements running at 28,800 vibrations per hour. With Seiko movements such as the NH35A, they run at 3 Hz, 21,600 vibrations per hour. The negative of a 3 Hz frequency is that the second-hand judders or stutters around the dial. With a 4 Hz movements like this PT5000, it's got a smoother sweep. The second-hand doesn't tick around the dial, it sweeps smoothly. 4 Hz also gives the perfect balance between power reserve and accuracy. If one increases the power reserve, inevitably one sacrifices accuracy. If one increases the accuracy, inevitably one sacrifices power reserve. So one has to strike a balance, a compromise between the two. 28,800 vibrations per hour and 4 Hz is that perfect sweet spot. It is the perfect compromise because this has 40 hours, but it is also very well regulated and it can be made very accurate. So the stated accuracy of the PT5000 is plus or minus 12 seconds per day when it comes from the factory HK Precision Technology. However, San Martin are very well regulating their PT5000s used. This one is running consistently at plus 2 seconds per day. That is chronometer grade accuracy. It is actually within COSC chronometer limits of -4 to +6 seconds per day. Plus or minus 2 seconds per day is Rolex superlative chronometer grade accuracy, as used in the Submariner, for example. So to get plus 2 seconds per day from a PT5000 is outstanding. That is chronometer grade accuracy, and really at $349 it is very unusual to get plus 2 seconds per day. 40-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. Hand winding and hacking useful complications. No negatives to the PT5000 whatsoever, providing it is correctly lubricated and providing it is an original HK Precision Technology version, not a clone of it. So I really like it. Now the question is it worth paying the extra to upgrade to the SW200-1 version? Because this SN006-G2 is available with both movements, the PT5000 or the SW200-1. I don't think you need to upgrade it. I don't think you need to pay the extra for the SW200-1 version. The PT5000 is perfectly good enough, and I think that it is the correct choice for this watch. So, lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price points. So $349 is the price point of this watch. This cannot be beaten. If you're looking for a Tudor Snowflake Submariner Homage, this is the ultimate. I've previously owned the San Martin Ocean 139, which was called the Marine Black, and that is an homage to the Snowflake Submariner with an aluminium bezel insert and the SW200-1. Similar price point piece, it's a €400 piece. This is better. Ceramic bezel insert, and the BGW9 is top grade. We have clear AR coating, 200 meters water resistance, female pivoted end links are excellent, and the clasp is superior to the clasp used on the Ocean 139. It's better quality, 4 micro adjustment holes, heavier gauge of metal, the finishing level is higher grade. So they are the 2 alternatives. If you're looking for a Snowflake Submariner, you're looking at the Ocean 139, which is called the Marine Black, available from Nomon watches exclusively. Alternative, you're looking at this piece, the SN006-G2. This is a better watch. I like this watch so much, I bought it and I've added it to my own personal collection. I want to clarify this. This wasn't gifted to me by San Martin. It wasn't gifted to me by watchknives.com. I bought it. That is how much I like the watch. I was prepared to pay my own money and buy the watch to add it to my own personal collection. It's one of the greatest San Martin watches ever made. I'm going to declare it a champagne watch for lemonade money. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the San Martin SN006-G2. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.